The radio crackled to life in the dead of night, its static slicing through the howling winds of the Zagros Mountains like a desperate plea from the abyss. Any station, this is Viper Lead. We're pinned down in the valley, ammo critical, 3 wounded. Storms closing in, extraction needed now. Gunfire punctuated the transmission, fading into silence that spoke of men fighting for their last breaths. But in the dimly lit quarters at Al Mansur Air Base, far from the chaos, Major Aisha Eagle Thompson stood before a cracked mirror, her dark skin glistening under the fluorescent hum. She traced the intricate lines of the eagle tattoo etched across her back, a fierce bird with wings spread wide, talons clutching a faded American flag. The ink seemed to pulse with life, a silent guardian from her past. A whisper echoed in her mind, unbidden and haunting. "Sister, fly high, but don't trust anyone." It was her brother's voice, from a letter he'd sent before his final mission, words that had become a mantra and a warning. Why did they resurface now? Aisha's lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile, her brown eyes reflecting a depth of secrets that could shatter alliances. What did she know that allowed her to face the storm with such quiet defiance? Outside her door, the whispers of her white teammates slithered through the air like venom. Black skin flying a C-130, she's a liability in a hot zone. Remember what happened to her brother, abandoned because he wasn't one of us. The injustice stung, a daily reminder that in this man's army, skill wasn't always enough. Color and gender often decided trust. Aisha pulled on her flight suit, the fabric worn from countless hours in the cockpit, and stepped into the pre-dawn chill of the base. Al Mansur was a fortress of steel and sand in northern Iraq, a hub for American operations against the Zagros militants, shadowy fighters who blended into the rugged terrain like ghosts. Her routine was clockwork: inspect the Hercules, calibrate instruments, log fuel levels. But today, as she ran her hands over the massive C-130's fuselage, the Prejudice shadowed her every move. The aircraft, nicknamed Sky Guardian, was a beast of engineering, 4 turboprop engines capable of hauling 60 tons through hellish conditions. It required precise calculations: lift force equaled weight times gravity, balanced against thrust and drag. In difficult terrain, like the cratered strips in these mountains, you'd need at least 3,000 feet for a safe landing under optimal winds. But Aisha had mastered it, her 85 combat missions proving her prowess. Yet the whispers persisted. Captain Lyle Ghost Harlan, a lanky white pilot with a perpetual smirk, leaned against a crate nearby, his voice dripping with mock concern. "Thompson, you really think you're up for this gig? Brass says the weather's suicide, 50-knot crosswinds, 0 viz, and with your history, folks might not want to fly with you." His words hit like shrapnel, evoking the mini hook of frustration that boiled in her chest. Aisha ignored him, but inside, the wound reopened. Flashback to 5 years ago. Her brother, Sergeant Jamal Thompson, a black SEAL, left behind in a botched extraction near Basra. The commander, a white officer, had cited tactical retreat, but Aisha knew the truth: racial bias had sealed his fate. Jamal's body was never recovered. Only that final letter, urging her to soar despite the chains. It fueled her resilience, turning pain into precision. She wasn't just a pilot, she was a symbol of defiance in a system rigged against her. As she tightened a bolt on the landing gear, the radio in the ops center blared again, urgent and raw. Aisha gripped her tattoo through the fabric, feeling its raised edges like a promise. But then, a familiar voice rang out from the static. A voice that cut through the interference like a knife from the grave. "Eagle 1, if you're out there, this is Master Chief Darius Storm Reyes, Viper Team. We need a miracle, sister. Jamal, he spoke of you often. Said you'd fly through hell if it meant bringing family home." Aisha froze, her wrench slipping from her hand with a metallic clatter. Reyes knew Jamal. The revelation hit like a gust in the mountains, a small surprise that ignited curiosity deep in her gut. How could a SEAL she'd never met carry echoes of her brother's final days? The radio spat more details. Viper Team, 12 elite operators trapped in a forgotten Zagros Valley by militants. Ammo dwindling, wounded mounting, and a storm front barreling in like Judgment Day. The ops center erupted into controlled chaos as Colonel Harlan Iron Brooks, a grizzled veteran with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many wars, slammed his fist on the tactical map. "Listen up!" Vipers surrounded, Taliban-style ambush. But these Zagros bastards are smarter, using the terrain like a noose. Weather windows closing, 50-knot crosswinds whipping through the passes, visibility dropping to zero in fog thicker than Baghdad smoke. Satellite recons blind, helos grounded. We need a C-130 to thread the needle, land on a bombed-out strip barely 800 feet of rubble, load under fire, and lift off before the mountains swallow everything. The room fell silent, pilots shifting uncomfortably, studying their boots. No one volunteered. The math was brutal. Risk calculation screamed suicide. Thrust versus drag in thin air, crosswinds that could flip a Hercules like a toy. Aisha felt the pull, a chance for redemption to prove that Jamal's death wasn't in vain, that a black woman could rewrite the rules. But Harlan, Captain Lyle Harlan, sidled up, his voice a low hiss masked as advice. "Major, think twice. Black skin in the cockpit? Brass might trust you on paper, but out there, in a hot zone? You're not trustworthy, not after Basra. Folks will see it as another diversity quota gone wrong." His words layered the conflict. External threat from militants, internal sabotage from Prejudice, and her own doubt gnawing like frostbite. Aisha's hand instinctively touched the eagle tattoo beneath her suit, the symbol reminding her of her father's words. Wings aren't given, they're earned through storms. Emotions surged, an inner struggle between fear and fire. She pulled out her mother's faded letter from her pocket, the one she'd carried through deployments. "Overcome prejudice with wings of flight, my girl. Don't let their chains ground you." The humanistic plea repeated in her mind, a beacon against the darkness. She stepped forward, heart pounding, nearly accepting the call to adventure. "Colonel I." But then, from the shadows, Harlan slipped away, pulling out his sat phone for a mysterious call. His whisper barely audible. "She's biting, but she'll fail. Or is there something darker at play?" Aisha's earpiece buzzed with sudden interference, a sharp whine that drowned out the ops chatter, a hint of betrayal woven into the static. Harlan's mysterious call had triggered it, or so it seemed. The audience might suspect a mere technical glitch, but Aisha's instincts screamed otherwise. Who was he talking to? And why now, just as she teetered on the edge of commitment? The multi-layered frustration clawed at her, pulling her back from the brink. She recalled Basra like a nightmare etched in fire. 3 years prior, her C-130 diving into a kill zone under faulty intel, ground fire ripping through the hull. She'd wrestled the beast of an aircraft through smoke and flames, calculating descent angles on the fly, drop rate versus airspeed, hydraulics failing as shrapnel tore into the wings. 30 souls saved, but 5 lost in the inferno, their screams haunting her debriefs. The board pinned it on her. Pilot error, they said, but whispers revealed the truth. Racial blame, a black woman scapegoated in a white-dominated chain of command. Anger boiled now, causing her fists to clench. How many more would die because prejudice blinded judgment? In the briefing room, her teammates amplified the torment. "Fly with Thompson? No thanks. Her luck's as dark as her skin," one muttered, refusing her as co-pilot. The rejection stung like salt in an open wound, layering external doubt over her inner turmoil. Colonel Brooks stepped in, his voice a steady anchor. "Aisha, you've got the skills. Ignore the noise." But she hesitated strongly, retreating to a corner, her mind a battlefield. Inner voice echoed. "Prejudice will kill me this time. Why risk it for a system that abandoned Jamal?" The frustration peaked in a mini twist, a flashback to her brother's last video call, his face gaunt under helmet shadows. "Sis, watch your back. There's a white traitor in the ranks, playing both sides. Don't let them clip your wings." His words, dismissed as paranoia then, now rang prophetic. Was Harlan that snake? Brooks pulled her aside, his mentorship cutting through the haze. "Life's like flying, Major. Calculate risks like lift force, weight against thrust, drag pulling you down. But to exceed limits, you need resilience. Push through the turbulence. That's the discipline that saves lives." His lesson, drawn from Vietnam's scars, educated her anew. Aviation wasn't just physics, it was mental fortitude, turning variables into victories. Aisha shook her head, deciding to refuse. "Sir, I can't. It's suicide, and I'm done being the token." But as she turned away, her pocket crinkled. An old letter from her mother slipped in during her last leave. Unfolding it, a new secret leaped from the page. "You must fly for your brother. He left something for you in the storm." Aisha's breath caught as the letter's secret unfolded in her trembling hands. Jamal suspected Captain Harlan, said he was playing dirty, feeding intel to the enemy for his own gain. Fly careful, child, expose the rot if you must. The revelation spiked her curiosity like a live wire. Harlan, the smirking skeptic, tied to her brother's demise? It explained the whispers, the interference. Was he the white traitor Jamal had warned of? The puzzle pieces hovered, urging her forward despite the refusal still bitter on her tongue. Colonel Brooks noticed her pallor and pulled her into his office, the walls lined with faded photos of jungle patrols. Sit, Major. I see that fire flickering. Don't let it die. Building the moment, he shared his Vietnam story, voice gravelly with regret. 1971, Mekong Delta. Lost a black teammate, Sergeant Ellis. Best scout I knew. Brass wrote him off as expendable. Racial crap that cost lives. I regretted not fighting harder. It haunts me. He unpinned a distinguished flying cross from his chest, pressing it into her palm. This is for survivors like you. Wear it as armor. The gesture forged an interest that deepened when the radio crackled again. Ally rise, his voice steady amid gunfire echoes. Eagle, if you're listening. Jamal saved my ass once in Fallujah. Told me about his sister, the pilot who'd redefine impossible. We're counting on that legacy. The emotional connection hit hard, bridging her isolation with brotherhood forged in blood. Desire ignited within Aisha. She drew strength from the eagle symbol, tracing it for resolve. Brooks leaned in, educating her on storm-flying technique. GPS for the skeleton, instinct for the soul. In zero-viz, trust your gut. Feel the air currents like a bird senses thermals. Calculate headings against 50-knot gusts. Use reverse thrust on short strips. It's not magic. It's discipline overriding fear. His words armed her, turning doubt into determination. Brooks nodded approval. Mission's yours, Thompson. Bring Viper home. But as she saluted, the radio hissed with unnatural static. Harlan's secret hack, a shadow in the system. The mission begins with an enemy within. The radio's unnatural hiss lingered like a ghost in the machine. A sneaky action revealed in Harlan's smug glance as he pocketed his device. Misdirection at its finest, making it seem like a glitch while planting seeds of doubt. Was he tampering with comms already? Aisha's pulse quickened. The enemy within was stirring, but the mission called louder. She strode to the hangar, the weight of Brooks' metal in her pocket, a talisman against the brewing storm. Dramatic action unfolded under the floodlights. Aisha prepared the C-130 Sky Guardian, her hands moving with practiced precision over the pre-flight checklist. Ground crew swarmed like bees, loading med kits, ammo crates, and stretchers into the cavernous belly. The Hercules gleamed, its 4 Allison T-56 turboprops humming to life with a throaty roar, condensation beating on the fuselage from the mountain chill. Fuel at max, hydraulics green, her loadmaster reported, a fellow black sergeant who met her eyes with unspoken solidarity. Aisha climbed into the cockpit, strapping in as instruments flickered alive. Altimeter, GPS, thrust indicators. Outside, the Zagros winds howled, a prelude to the chaos ahead. Takeoff thrust her into the threshold, engines surging, the plane hurtling down the runway into the ink-black night. Al Mansur Tower, Sky Guardian departing for hot extraction, she radioed, voice steady despite the turbulence grabbing the wings like invisible claws. The external conflict erupted mid-climb, a streak of fire from the horizon. A militant rocket, arcing toward them in a deadly parabola. Alarms blared. Aisha banked hard, deploying flares that bloomed like fireworks, decoying the missile into harmless explosion. Bandits know we're coming. Stay sharp, she barked to her crew. Education in aviation's harsh realities came swiftly. Maneuvering against turbulence demanded split-second math. Air density thinning at 8,000 feet, crosswinds shearing at 50 knots, forcing constant corrections. Feel the plane, Brooks had taught. Aisha relied on GPS for waypoints, but instinct for the invisible eddies, trimming flaps to counter yaw, balancing thrust to maintain lift amid the bucking thermals. It was a dance with physics, where one miscalculation meant spiraling into stone. The mountains loomed like jagged sentinels, passes narrowing to threads. Sky Guardian groaned, frames stressed by maneuvers never intended for a transport beast. Aisha's tattoo itched under her suit, the eagle urging her onward. But then, the plane nearly crashed into a fog-shrouded peak, altimeter screaming as rock faces loomed in the HUD. Pull up, her co-pilot yelled. She yanked the yoke, engines whining in protest. And in that razor-edge moment, a strange signal pierced the comms from Harlan. A strange signal from Harlan that warped into garbled code, interference spiking the comms just as the pass narrowed. Aisha's mini-hook of suspicion flared. Her teammates in the cargo bay offered support, the loadmaster shouting, "We've got your back, Major. Steady on throttles." But Harlan's meddling was clear, his voice crackling falsely. "Eagle, abort. Weather's worsening." Was this concern or sabotage? The wind pushed mercilessly, 60-knot gusts slamming Sky Guardian like a battering ram, the plane shuddering as it threaded the Zagros defile. Allies emerged in the chaos. Her co-pilot, a young lieutenant of mixed heritage, adjusted the yoke in sync, his encouragement cutting through the roar. "You're nailing it, ma'am," GPS holding at 12,000 feet. The support bolstered her, a reminder that not all uniforms hid prejudice. But Harlan's interference persisted, radio frequencies jamming sporadically, forcing Aisha to switch channels mid-maneuver. She fought the controls, calculating wind shear on the fly, vector adjustments to counter yaw, engines straining at full RPM to maintain airspeed above stall. The mountains clawed closer, fog swallowing visibility, turning the flight into a blindfolded gauntlet. External enemies revealed themselves. Militant spotters on ridges below, their chatter intercepted briefly before Harlan's jam hit again. Rockets streaked up, forcing evasive rolls that tested the Hercules' limits. "They're locking on. How do they know our path?" Aisha growled, flares deploying in a cascade. The loop of doubt tightened. Enemy knows position. Who leaked? Her tattoo burned under the strain, the eagle a silent ally urging persistence. She cleared the pass by inches, but the question lingered like smoke. Clearing the defile, Aisha keyed the secure line to contact Reyes, her voice cutting through residual static. "Viper lead, this is Sky Guardian, ETA 20 mics. Status?" Reyes' response crackled back, strained but resolute, holding but they're closing fast. 3 sides, heavy fire. "Eagle, intel says a leak from your end, positions compromised." The discovery hit like a gut punch. The traitor was real, and frustration boiled as fragments aligned. Harlan's calls, the jams, the precise enemy tracking. "It's him," Aisha whispered, piecing it. Harlan betrays due to prejudice, viewing her as a threat to his whitewashed world, selling cords to militants for glory or grudge. Education in electronic warfare unfolded mid-flight. Aisha engaged countermeasures, her console lighting up with ECM pods, electronic countermeasure systems jamming enemy radars, spoofing signals to create ghost echoes. "Basics of EW," she explained to her crew over intercom, voice teacher-like amid tension. "Transmit noise on their freaks, overwhelm sensors. It's chess in the ether, predicting moves before they lock." The loadmaster nodded, an ally in the fray, relaying wounded prep below. But Harlan's betrayal deepened the wound. Intercepted bursts confirmed it, his voice on a side channel. "Target the black pilot, easy pickings." Frustration maxed as militants adapted, drones buzzing in pursuit, forcing Aisha to dive through clouds. "Why, Harlan? Because I don't fit your mold?" She muttered, inner rage fueling focus. Reyes radioed Alliance. "Jamal would have been proud. Hold on, sister." The plane hit by bullet, a sharp ping off the armor, alarms wailing as hydraulics dipped. The loop gripped. Survive or fall. Smoke trailed from a wing, but Aisha stabilized, engines roaring defiance. The valley yawned below, a cratered hellscape of rubble and fire. The runway, a bombed relic, pocked with debris. Aisha initiated a test landing approach, descending through the maelstrom, altimeter spinning backward, crosswinds shoving the Hercules sideways. But it failed spectacularly. Tires kissed concrete only to skid on water-slicked craters, the plane bouncing violently, gear groaning under stress. "Abort! Abort!" her co-pilot yelled as they pulled up, narrowly avoiding a twisted Soviet wreck. Aisha nearly collapsed in her seat, sweat stinging her eyes, doubt crashing like the storm. Inner flashback assaulted her. Basra again, but vivid, flames licking the cockpit, crew screaming as she wrestled controls, Jamal's voice overlapping, "Fly, sis, don't let them win." The memory layered frustration with fear. Was this Jamal's fate repeating? Allies faltered momentarily. The loadmaster radioed concern. "Ma'am, we can turn back." But Reyes's urgent plea cut in. "Eagle, we're bleeding out. You're our only shot." The enemies multiplied. Militants' muzzle flashes dotting ridges, Harlan's ghost in the systems, her own demons whispering defeat. She gripped the yoke, tattoo pressing against her harness like a heartbeat. The eagle's secret revealed strength, a hidden inscription beneath the ink, inked by her father. Rise from ashes, unbroken. But too late. The plane bucked, systems flickering from the earlier hit, Aisha's resolve teetering on the edge of surrender. The plane's bucking intensified, systems flickering like dying stars, Aisha's resolve fraying at the edges. Too late, she whispered, the question a dagger to her spirit. But then, the eagle spoke through memory, an emotional surprise surging like adrenaline. The hidden inscription beneath the ink blazed in her mind. Rise from ashes, unbroken. Her father's voice thundering over the roar, a flashback to his deathbed where he'd gripped her hand. This tattoo ain't just art, girl, it's your armor. When the world clips your wings, remember, eagles don't flee storms, they use them to soar higher. The words ignited a fire, pulling her from surrender's brink, the symbol transforming doubt into defiance. Dense conflict exploded as the valley fully unveiled itself, a wound in the earth, ringed by jagged peaks where militants swarmed like locusts. Through breaks in the fog, Aisha glimpsed the ruined strip. 800 feet of cratered concrete, littered with twisted metal and standing water that mirrored tracer rounds slicing the dawn. Viper team hunkered behind a burned-out bunker, their muzzle flashes a desperate rhythm against overlapping fields of fire from the ridges. Education in terrain tactics flashed through her training. Militants had mastered the high ground, positioning for enfilade, crossfire lanes that turned the valley into a kill box, approach angles calculated to shred anything descending below 1,000 feet. Smart bastards, Aisha muttered, analyzing. Use the natural choke points, force low-altitude runs where wind shear amplified risks, turning geography into a weapon deadlier than rockets. But the true enemy within revealed himself mid-descent. Harlan's voice hacked the secure channel, no longer hiding. Thompson, you should have stayed grounded. A black woman thinking she's a hero? This ends now. Frustration erupted, Aisha's blood boiling at the betrayal, Prejudice unmasked in his sneer. How long had he fed cords to the militants, sabotaging from Almansor's shadows? You sold out Viper? For what? Your ego? She snarled, but Harlan laughed, his signal pinpointing from a hidden device in the cockpit, planted sabotage. The plane lurched as he triggered a remote glitch, avionics glitching, forcing Aisha to manual override. Allies rallied faintly. Reyes radioed, Eagle, we're seeing movement, hold position. Her loadmaster shouted from the bay, ma'am, ramp ready, we've got suppressive if you land. But Harlan's revelation culminated in raw violence. A concealed pistol drawn from his flight bag aimed at her head in the confined cockpit. Diversity hires like you ruin the force, he spat, frustration peaking as he fired. A shot grazing her shoulder, blood blooming hot and sticky. Pain seared, but Aisha twisted, slamming an elbow into his throat, the struggle chaotic amid the descent. The Hercules pitched wildly, militants' fire bracketing them now, rockets exploding nearby in blooms of shrapnel. Aisha nearly dies in the melee, Harlan's second shot whizzing past her ear, the plane spiraling toward the rocks, death coming in a whirl of fog and fire. This is it, she thought, vision blurring from blood loss. Or a miracle? Death loomed in the spiraling cockpit, the Hercules plummeting toward jagged rocks, Harlan's pistol jammed against Aisha's temple in a frozen standoff. Blood from her grazed shoulder soaked the controls, vision tunneling as the altimeter screamed warnings. But then, a miracle burst through the rear ramp. Rise, Viper's Master Chief, storming aboard in a hail of suppressive fire, his SEAL team providing cover from the ground. Eagle, hold on, Reyes bellowed, tackling Harlan from behind. The pistol discharging harmlessly into the bulkhead. The full twist unraveled in that chaotic grapple. Harlan, pinned and snarling, confessed his prejudice in a venomous rant. You think you're equal? Blacks like you and your brother, ruining the military with your inclusivity. I fed the militants your path to prove it. End this farce. The complete misdirection shattered illusions. What seemed like technical glitches or militant luck was Harlan's orchestrated betrayal, rooted in deep-seated racism, not just ego. Aisha's world spun, years of whispers crystallized into this moment, frustration peaking as betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. Life and death escalated in the valley's kill box, the plane's nose dipping perilously low. Aisha wrestled back control, ignoring the searing pain, initiating the landing under fire. Technical details demanded perfection. She flared the Hercules at 50 feet, slamming the throttles into reverse thrust. The props biting backward, generating negative lift to halt 60 tons in under 800 feet of rubble-strewn strip. Tires screamed against cratered concrete, sparks flying as debris shredded rubber. The gear compressing with a metallic groan. Education in extraction tactics played out in real time. SEALs laid suppressive fire, overlapping bursts from M4 carbines and MCAC 48 machine gun, creating a bubble of safety around the ramp. Medevac priority, load the wounded first, Reyes commanded, his team dragging 3 bloodied operators aboard, IV lines dangling amid the chaos. Militants' RPGs whistled overhead, detonating nearby in earth-shaking blasts, shrapnel pinging off the armored hull. Mac's frustration boiled over in the cockpit brawl. Harlan broke free momentarily, lunging for the yoke to force a crash. "You'll die a failure, like Jamal," he spat, his words a dagger twisting racial wounds. Aisha's rage ignited satisfaction. She countered with a precise elbow strike, honed from Air Force combatives training, disarming him and slamming his head against the console. "This is for every barrier you built," she growled, zip-tying his wrists with cable from the toolkit. The defeat was visceral. Harlan slumped, defeated not just physically but ideologically. His confession broadcast accidentally over the open channel, exposing the rot to Brooks back at base. Below, Viper loaded with practiced efficiency, stretchers secured, able-bodied SEALs taking defensive positions in the bay, their sniper picking off ridge threats with calculated cracks. "All aboard. Go, go," the loadmaster yelled. Ramp whining shut as enemy fire intensified, rounds sparking off the fuselage. Extraction tactics shone through the pandemonium. Use the plane's bulk as cover, coordinate ground-to-air signals via flares, prioritize evac sequence, wounded, then gear, then personnel. Aisha pushed throttles forward, engines surging against the storm's fury, but satisfaction tempered with peril. The Hercules rolled forward on the damaged strip, gathering speed amid crosswinds that tried to veer them into cliffs. Militants poured down slopes, a human wave of desperation, but Viper's rear guard held, grenades arcing into the fray. Lift came at the last second, nosewheel lifting as the runway ended in a sheer drop. Takeoff thrust them skyward, but the storm stronger now. Winds howling at 70 knots, turbulence like a giant's fist, threatened to end it all. Escape or forever. Escape clawed its way through the storm's fury, the Hercules clawing altitude inch by inch, engines straining against the gale. Aisha gripped the yoke, her shoulder wound throbbing in rhythm with the turbulence, but a sweet surprise pierced the tension like dawn's first light. Reyes made his way forward. Viper Team's survivors clustered in the bay, their faces etched with exhaustion and gratitude. "Major Thompson," Reyes said, his voice cutting through the roar, "you pulled us from the jaws of hell. On behalf of Viper, we want you to have this." He extended a worn SEAL trident patch, gold embroidery frayed from battles past, a symbol of elite brotherhood earned through blood. The gesture was an unexpected balm, a sweet surprise that bridged divides. No longer an outsider, Aisha was welcomed into their fold, her color and gender transcended by sheer will. Satisfaction washed over her like a cleansing rain. Aisha touched the eagle tattoo, feeling its contours through bloodied fabric, a rebirth igniting within. The ink pulsed with new life, her father's words echoing, unbroken. Wounds of prejudice, the scars from Basra and Jamal's loss, began to heal in this crucible of triumph. She wasn't just a pilot anymore. She was redeemed, a beacon proving that resilience shattered chains. Humanistic warmth followed as the team settled. One SEAL, Petty Officer Ramirez, borrowed the sat phone to call family. "Mama, I'm coming home." Thanks to the eagle who flew through the devil's own storm. Aisha overheard snippets, wives weeping relief, children cheering, reminders that missions weren't abstractions but lifelines to loved ones. Reyes clasped her uninjured shoulder. "Jamal's spirit was with you today. He'd say you flew higher than any of us." But the loop of peril tightened anew. Alarms blared as damage from the Valley skirmish manifested, hydraulics leaking, a wing flap jammed, smoke wisping from an engine. The plane shuddered violently, the storm unrelenting. Return home. With final challenge. Return home beckoned through the storm's veil, but the final challenge materialized in a swarm of shadows, drones pursuing like vengeful hornets, an unexpected twist launched by lingering militants or Harlan's parting sabotage. Radar pinged warnings, the unmanned threats closing fast, their payloads humming with lethal intent. Bandit drones inbound. 3 o'clock, the loadmaster shouted. Viper team scrambling to man the door guns. Aisha's wound pulsed, but adrenaline sharpened her focus. This wasn't over. Dramatic urgency gripped the cockpit as Aisha initiated mid-air repairs, her hands diving into the access panel amid violent shakes. Co-pilot, hold course. I'll patch the hydraulics, she commanded. Education and resilience life skills unfolding like a survival manual. In aviation, as in life, breakdowns test your core. Assess damage, improvise fixes, never panic. Twist these wires for a bypass. It's duct tape engineering at 10,000 feet. She soldered a jury-rigged connection, sparks flying in the dim red light, drawing on years of training where resourcefulness trumped resources. The plane stabilized momentarily, engines compensating for the flap jam, but frustration surged at the systemic prejudice fueling this nightmare. Harlan's confession echoed. A network of bias in the ranks, where black excellence was undermined, missions compromised by ingrained racism. How many more like Jamal? She muttered, the betrayal not just personal but institutional, a frustration that threatened to eclipse the victory. Allies bolstered her. Reyes coordinated from the bay, his SEALs picking off a drone with precise rifle fire, explosions blooming in the clouds. You're unbreakable, Eagle. Keep us aloft. But the drones adapted, one slipping through to rake the fuselage with autocannon fire, fuel lines nicking. The Hercules nearly falls, plummeting 2,000 feet in a stomach-lurching dive, alarms a cacophony of doom. Victory. Or final failure. Victory teetered on the precipice as the Hercules plunged, engines faltering in the drone's wake, the final failure looming like the storm's dark heart. But Aisha summoned a heroic maneuver, satisfaction surging as she banked sharply, a high yo-yo twist, using the plane's mass to loop above the pursuers, then diving to align the door gunner. Fire now, she roared, the loadmaster unleashing bursts that shredded the lead drone in mid-air explosion. Reyes cheered from the bay, his SEALs joining the fray, picking off the remnants with precision shots. The sky cleared momentarily, debris raining into the abyss below. Aisha's instinct and training turning the tide in a display of aerial prowess that belied the transport's bulk. The resurrection came not just in survival, but in victory over Prejudice's shadows. Back on comms, Brooks' voice broke through the static. Eagle, we've got Harlan's confession on tape. It's blowing up the chain. Investigations launching, systemic changes inbound, no more blind eyes to bias, your flight's the catalyst. The revelation washed over her, a twist where personal triumph sparked institutional reform, equality through action etched into policy. Education in this truth resonated. True equity wasn't handed down but forged in deeds, where one woman's resilience exposed cracks, forcing the military to rebuild stronger, fairer. Aisha forgave, not Harlan's hate, but the system's inertia. We rise together, she radioed back, her voice steady, extending an olive branch to doubters. Wounded but unbroken, she touched the eagle once more, feeling full rebirth, the tattoo a testament to Jamal's legacy, her father's wisdom. Viper's gratitude echoed. You saved us all, sister. The plane leveled, heading homeward, the storm yielding to dawn's gold. The Hercules pierced the storm's final veil. Engines humming a victory anthem as Al-Mansour's lights twinkled on the horizon like welcoming stars. Aisha guided the wounded bird to a smooth touchdown, tires kissing the runway with a sigh of relief. As the ramp lowered, a sweet mini-hook unfolded. Teammates and ground crew erupted in applause, a thunderous ovation that echoed across the tarmac. Pilots who'd once whispered doubts now stood shoulder to shoulder, saluting her descent from the cockpit, bloodied but unbowed. Eagle's home, someone shouted, the cheer swelling into a chorus, washing away years of isolation in a wave of hard-earned respect. Aftermath rippled through the base like dawn's warmth. Medics swarmed Viper team, whisking the wounded to bays where IVs and bandages promised recovery. Aisha, her shoulder hastily patched, faced Brooks in the debrief room, his eyes gleaming with pride. Major, you've not only saved 12 lives, you've ignited change. Harlan's exposed, inquiries are dismantling the old guard. Your actions prove equality isn't a policy, it's proven in the fire. She nodded, the elixir of her journey crystallizing, a message for the next generation. Later, in a quiet hangar, Aisha addressed a group of young cadets, diverse faces mirroring her own youth, wide-eyed at her tale. Fly higher than prejudice, she quoted her father's mantra, the words a beacon. Let no chain ground you, turn storms into lift. Your worth isn't in skin or rank, it's in the will to soar. The cadets hung on every syllable, one black girl whispering, I want to be like you. Inspiration seeded, a cycle of resilience blooming for tomorrow's warriors. Humanistic threads wove the triumph deeper. Seal's family letters arrived days later, handwritten notes that bridged battlefields to hearths. Ramirez's wife wrote, You gave me back my husband, Major. Our kids will grow knowing a woman's wings saved their dad. Reyes enclosed a photo of his daughter scribbled, She calls you Aunt Eagle now. Thanks for honoring Jamal's memory. These missives folded into Aisha's quarters beside her tattoo sketch humanized the mission. Reminders that heroism echoed in quiet lives, in children who'd inherit stories of defiance against odds. The elixir wasn't medals or promotions. It was this ripple, lives intertwined. Prejudice's grip, loosening one act at a time. In the open ending, as Aisha stood on the flight line at dusk, watching a lone eagle soar over the Zagros peaks, wings cutting through fading light, unbound and majestic, she felt closure's whisper. The bird circled once, as if saluting, before vanishing into the horizon. Her journey complete, yet endless. The sky held more storms, more flights to freedom. Have you overcome prejudice? Share in the comments to spread the power of resilience.